we're back and we're here today going to do a Studio One tutorial. Pretty simple one today. It's just going to be a tutorial on exporting files and stems so that we can share our music with others or collaborate with others or have other people do mixdowns of our music, remixes of our music, whatever it is that you may want to do to share your art. This is a great way of doing it. So let's get into a file that I've already got open here in Studio One. And we're working in Studio One 6 today. And I saw that I have an update that I need to do. So a lot of times we want to share our music after the final product is finished and we just want to mix it down. Essentially that means that all the tracks are mixed down into a stereo file that we can listen to on our car stereo, on our phones. We could burn it onto a CD. We could do a number of things that we want to do with it and share it online over Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, whatever it is. If you want to share that music and that audio file, you need to be able to convert it from the current format that we see it in into a mixed stereo file. So it's very simple to do. What you want to do is you want to go to the main menu up at the top. We're going to go to the Song tab. We're going to open up the Song tab right here. It's going to give us a couple of options: import file, import song data. So that's if we're bringing stuff into Studio One. But we're trying to export out our music. So what we're trying to do is export down a mixdown. We're going to try to export out a mixdown of the entirety of this song. And they also give us the option of exporting stems, which is basically the individual tracks by themselves so that others can do remixes. If you're a beat maker and you want to sell the individual stems with your files, you can do that as well. This gives you an opportunity to do this if you're collaborating with other musicians and whatnot. So let's get started. We're going to go to the first one, is export mixdowns. If you're a Mac user, it's just a keystroke of Command E, and it will open up this mixdown window right here. All right. So let's go through each little section here. You got the location section. This is just saying where the file that you're currently working on is saved at. Okay, and this is going to create a mixdown folder to put this file in, basically in your Studio One song folder created for Do or Die, this current song that we're working on, and it's going to create a mixdown folder in this location to house this current mixdown. So here you can rename the file to whatever you want. A lot of times I'll do something like this, the file name, and then mixdown or mix one, just in case there's any changes that an artist wants made or anything like that. I can send another file with an edited version and name that mix 2, mix 3, mix 4, whatnot. So this is where you rename that file type. Don't have to really worry about this publishing part. This is just if you want to, basically if you want to take this song, we can send it to Notion, which is another Presonus software, and it will convert this into a composition, basically that you can read with notes. So if you're a musician and you read music, then it will create composition for that. So all right, the next one is going to be format, and this is basically what you want the file to be mixed down to. What format? Do you want it to be a WAV file? Do you want it to be an MP3 file? Do you want it to be an AIFF, a FLAC file, a CAF file, M4A file? All these different file types. But for our general purposes, most people listen to their music on it, either listen to MP3 files because they're a smaller file, so it doesn't take as much storage space on, say, a phone or your computer or whatnot. Then you have a WAV file, which is probably about 2 or 3 times larger than an MP3 file. Don't quote me on that, but I'm just, generalization. It is definitely a bigger file than an MP3. So a lot of times in an email, if you're going to share this file with a friend or something, and you want to email it to them, you may want to give them an MP3 file because it's going to be a smaller file, and your email will only allow you to basically send about 25 megabytes of a file before you have to send them a link to where that file is. Usually they'll, if you're using Google, Gmail, then if it's over 25 megabytes, they'll put that file in your Google Drive account and then give the link for your friend or whoever you're sharing the file with to download that link, and then they can download that file from that link. So just a few things to take into consideration. And then you have your resolution. Do you want it to be a 16-bit, 48 kilohertz sample rate? Basically, this is going to be okay where it's at right now. For most things, you're going to want it to be 44.1, 16-bit 44.1. Now, this was the standard for burning onto a CD. Your file had to be mixed down to these standards right here, but being if you're doing something online, you can raise it up to 48 because the standards aren't the same for online format as it is for a CD. So my settings are right here are fine. And then you have a couple other settings over here, and this is an important one. You want to make sure that you're sending the whole song and not just like a snippet of the song. And sometimes this can happen. I've done it on a number of times where I may have just been looping the chorus in the song so that I can make sure that it sounds good, and I forgot to change that loop to the whole to loop the whole song. And not just the hook. And then when I mix it down, I'm just mixing down the hook. So be careful. Make sure that you're mixing down the whole song. So this is where you're going to do that. This is basically saying I want to mix between the loop range that I've set. So that's basically what I use because I use loops a lot to listen back to things. You can also go and do between song start end marker. So there's a song start end marker lane in the marker lane up here, which I'll show you in a second, that you can do that with. Or you can have it between each marker, or you can have it between selected markers. So, and then overlap. This is for if you're doing, say, multiple songs in one file, and you want them to overlap. You can set the overlap amount to whatever you want. And this just kind of gives a duration of the song length once you selected these areas. So right now my selection is a small selection of loop right here. You can see that it's just a piece of verse right there. So it's only 17 seconds long. So let's just click out of cancel out of this, and let's go back out here and zoom out of our song a little bit so we can see the entirety of it. So you'll see that we've got 23 tracks. And I'm just going to drag my loop out to the end of the song and make sure I drag the loop out to the front of the song. And you'll see that if you put your cursor up right above the numbers of the ruler bar, your cursor turns into a pencil, and then you can click and drag out where you want your loop range to be. So from bar 1 all the way to the end of bar, to the beginning of bar 98. I think that's 90. No, 101. And you see that if you just hold it right at the edges of the front or end of the loop, it turns into 2 arrows, and it's telling you which way you can drag that way or dragging this way. So I'm just going to drag it, and it snaps into place, back out. So that's if you're doing a loop range. Okay. If we come over here to our top of our menu, to the left here, and we come to the global track visibility, the one with the 3 little lanes here, click on that and it opens up, expands another menu. So we can add a marker lane. So right now we have an arranger lane, which is this guy right here, where we have our structure of our song, the arrangement of our song. is shown there. But we can also add markers, and that will give us a marker lane, and this is our arranger lane. So now we got a marker lane. So once we open up that marker lane, you'll see that there's already two markers preset. There's a start marker, which is always going to be at bar 1, and then there's an end marker that's going to be somewhere back here, and you're going to want to grab it and drag it to the end of your song. So now you have start and end of song. So if we were to go back into the song Mixdown, we may want to select between start and end as opposed to between the loop. So that kind of ensures that we're not missing anything. And for somebody like me who uses loops a lot, I probably should use between song and start and marker much more. So we'll get back out of that real quick. And let's do another little thing. So let's say the artist I'm working with wants me to just loop the hook or the chorus of the song. So my chorus is right here in the green. So I'm just going to put my cursor there, and then I'm going to hit plus, and it's going to add a marker there. And it labels it marker number 2 since start is number 1. And then I'll come over here to the end of the chorus, and I'll add another marker, and it'll label it marker number 3. So now, if we go back into the export Mixdown screen, we can do between each marker. So basically that means that it's going to do a bounce between each marker, between start and 2, or and 2 and 3, and then 3 and end. So actually, I think it's just between 2 and 3. So don't quote me on the first parts. It's just between this marker and this marker that we've got set. So it's only going to bounce down this little section, which will be the chorus section. That's what we want. Then you have between selected markers, and it gives you, like, maybe you want to do between start and 2, or 2 and 3, or 3 and end. So it just gives you some more variations. But for our part, for what we're doing, between loop or between song and end marker are probably going to be your best bet for this type of situation. So I'm just going to leave it on between song and end marker, and we're going to leave this open. We've already labeled it do or die mix 1. We've got WAV file and MP3 file selected. So I like to give my artists, my clients, an option of which one they want to use. The WAV file is going to sound a little bit more dynamic because it's not as compressed as an MP3 file is. So once I've got all that selected, you don't have to worry about loudness right now. We'll talk about this at another time. And here are a couple of options here. The output, generally I'd never touch any of these two areas right here. But we'll go into these in another time, but loudness definitely in another time. This one we'll gloss over real quick. This is the output, which is the main output on our mix. If there's a different output you wanted, then you would select that. It's giving us a stereo mix. Speaker format, original. You can do mono, split mono, stereo. So we'll just leave it at original. I never touch that setting. This bypass master effects, if you have anything on your main channel, your master channel is what we call it, your main channel out, and there's any effects on that channel and you don't want them to be included in your song, just hit that bypass. It's not relevant for what we're doing, but if we were sending this mix down to a mastering engineer, they don't want all that effects on the end on the master, because they're going to be doing the mastering, so they're going to be adding their own effects. So we just leave that off for right now. But if we were going to send that, we'd probably use that. Use real-time processing means that it's going to process And bounce down the song, mix down the song. Bounce and mix down are two of the same terms. So it's going to mix down the song in the actual time frame the song is. So this song is, I'm not really sure how long it is. What, 4 minutes and 49 seconds? So it'll take 4 minutes and 49 seconds for this file to complete. It's mixed down. I usually don't do that. I use I unselect this, and this means that it's going to do it at 2 or 3 times faster than real time. I like to keep the tempo written to the audio file, so if somebody were to drag the WAV file or MP3 file into their own music software, the tempo is embedded in the file so that they can see what tempo the file was when we recorded it, so they can set their grid accordingly. And import to track, that's something I've never done before, so it would probably import the mix down to a track that we select out here in our session, and then close after export. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK, and it's going to do a quick mix down for us, and you'll see that it says that it's 1.5 to 2.9 times faster than real time. So good little feature, saves a lot of time. So I'm going to open up my Gmail account. I've already got a email ready. And once it's mixed down, once it's finished, in about 2.5 minutes or so, once it's finished, it'll pop up a box and it'll show you, it will open up the folder that the files are actually in, so that you can audition those files directly from that folder, or move them to another location, or drag and drop them, a copy of them, into your email here. So let's let this elapse here real quick. All right, so like I said, it put it in the Mixdown folder that I had already created already, with some other mixdowns that I did in the past. This is just for tutorial purposes. But now I have the files here. They show me the locations in the Mixdown folder of this song. I'm going to open up my Gmail account, and I'm going to show you what I mean. If I just drag in the MP3 and drag that and drop it on, you'll see that it's loading, and I can send this with no problem because it's not that big of a file, right? It's only about 11 megabytes. Now I'm going to grab the WAV file, drop that in there, and it's going to upload that file to the email account. And close that real quick. Let it do its thing, and then once it's uploaded, so it's a 52.9 megabyte file. So which means Gmail only allows you 25 megabytes before they say that the file types are too large. Would you like to share this with the recipient and give them a link? Would you allow them to be an editor? Would you allow them to view this, listen to it without touching it or downloading it? So it gives you some options you'll see right here. So now we've got both of them in here. There's the WAV file and the MP3 file. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit send, and you'll see that it pops up. So someone needs access to Do or Die Mixwave, the WAV, because it's the larger file of the two. So it's going directly to my Google Drive account attached to my email. And it's just going to put the file there and create a link so that anybody with a link can download this. So usually I do that, or I make the person I'm sending, which I'm sending it to myself, but to Area 67 Music editor, which allows them to download it. Otherwise, they can view it, but they can't download it, or they could comment on it, but they can't do anything else to it. So it's either editor, or I usually just allow anyone with the link to view. So the reason I do this is not everybody uses Gmail, so it makes it a little more difficult if somebody, say, using Yahoo or a different mail account. It's not as easy to open as if you already have a Gmail account. It's just super, super easy. So I just usually allow anyone with the link to view and then hit send. And the file uh, is sent. And once I get it, I can drag it and drop it into whatever device I want to listen to it on. All right, so that's for Mixdown of the entire song. So export Mixdown. Mixdown is the entire song as you hear it coming out your speakers, and that's how you want everybody else to hear it. So that's going to mix it down the way that it is into a stereo file. Now here's what we would use if you're collaborating with other musicians, needing to send these tracks to a mix engineer so that they can mix it and then maybe master it. Maybe you're a beat maker and part of your package of beats is that you sell an MP3, you sell a wave, and you also sell the stems. This is where you would get these files to share with other people that you want to collaborate with or share these types of files with. So we're going to export stems. So before we get into it, what are stems? Stems are basically the individual tracks that we've created. So each track would be a stem. Simple as that. It's just another name for this lane, this individual lane with everything that is on it and whatever we set our range to be our mix output, this, start end of our song. That's the range. So it's going to bounce down a file from start to finish, and it's going to maintain the timing of the location of where that file starts. So at the beginning, it's going to be, say, for this file, there's nothing happening until it gets to about bar 6.5, right? And then it ends at about bar 13, and then nothing else happens. So you're going to get a whole file that's going to start from 1. Once it gets to this part, you'll hear this part, and then the rest of the file is just going to be empty all the way to the end. So you'll get all these files from front to back, start to end. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a moment. So this is great. So if we want to share these with somebody like myself who's a mix engineer, and say you record your own tracks, your vocals at home, and you want me to mix your vocals, you could send me your individual stems so that I have them individually so that I could do proper panning and processing to them, equalization, compression, delay, adding effects, delays, and stuff like that. So this is what you'd want to use. So everything else is the same. We're going to keep the same settings depending on what you want to share. Start to end of the song is generally what you want to share, but maybe you're just sharing a vocal section, a little section of the song, so you could do that area. It gives you those options like we discussed. Go back to song, export stems. Now if you're a Mac user, that's going to be Shift Command E. And it's going to open up a similar box than we had last time with all the same information, location. And this time it's going to create a stem folder, not a Mixdown folder. So each individual stem will be located in that folder. What type of file? Generally, we want to preserve the file type that we're recording. So we're recording a WAV file, and that's what I want to send. Whatever the resolution recording in, if I'm recording at 16-bit, 48K, or 24-bit, that's how I want to send it. However recorded it, I want to give them the same format that I recorded it in. And this is, again, our export range. So let's just say between the songs, start and end marker. So that's the complete song. And we know about all this over here already, our other options. And this is where we're going to select which of these tracks we want to send. So basically, it's going to give you two options. You're going to have channels and you're going to have tracks. So the only difference between channels and tracks are channels include everything from the main output channel to your buses to your effects buses. It includes all those. So if I have channels selected, you're going to see there's the main output. I don't need basically the stereo mix. I don't need that. I just want to send them the individual tracks. So track 1 would correspond to this track. Track 1 would correspond to that, and so on and so forth. They're corresponding to, as you see them to the left, they're corresponding here on to the right. But here, you're also going to see other tracks, the hook bus, the reverb, bus 4, a verse bus, and any other empty tracks that may not have been recorded on are also going to show up as well. I don't have any. So all the tracks are shown, track names, numbers. So we have 23 tracks, so they all show up, and then all the individual buses are also there. So the purpose of this is if you want to share those effects and how those sound coming through the bus. Doesn't really matter if you send these or not. You can or can't. It doesn't really matter. I guess it would be at the discretion of the person you're sending it to. So just ask them if they want all that, then send them all that. If they don't, then it'd probably be easier just to go to tracks and then just select the tracks that you want to send, and it corresponds to over here. And it will even tell you if there's a track that doesn't have anything on it, and it will deselect it for you automatically so that you're not just sending an empty track. So this is the way that I like to do it, and this is the way I like to get them in general. Unless I want to see how and hear how you applied your effects and compression and all that kind of stuff on the bus, on your buses, and how you sent them to the effects buses. Otherwise, just send them to me like this, dry. This means that there's no effects on these tracks. So we've selected all the tracks that have audio on them. Okay. And I'm going to hit OK. And this is going to be another long mix sounds. So when you do it this way, it could take a while, because it's going to take about close to the 3 minutes or 4 minutes, whatever the song length was. I think it was like 4:49, something like that. So it's going to take about 3 minutes for each track. So exporting stems for Mixdown, depending on how many tracks you have, could take a whole lot of time. It could take an hour. In this case, it would take an hour to export all these down. So in order to save time, I'm just going to say that we've exported all these files down. It created a folder. Let's just assume that this is the folder that for do or die. You got a Mixdown folder, and then it created a stem folder. Within that folder, you're going to have each individual track as its own file, listed as such, so that I can drag these files into my own software and mix them individually how I feel like I hear them and to my taste. So the best way to do this, to share this, especially if you have a large number of files, is the best way I like to do this is just highlight them all, and then I right click, and it's different on a Windows unit. So however you can compress these all into one file for sending is your best bet. With a Mac, it's very easy. Just not sure how it's done on a Windows unit. If you right click on it, I can compress these 7 items. So what it's going to do is going to compress them all into its own zip file. So basically it's creating a folder and packaging that folder with these stems in it. And then compressing it so that we can send it at a smaller size than it actually is. So once it's done, it'll pop up here, and now it'll be, usually they call it archive zip. I'm just going to say stems. All right, just for our purposes. Then I can open up my email client again and say, okay, Area 67, I need you guys to mix this song for me. So let's just send it over there to them and say song stems. And I'm just going to drag this file into my email client. Once it's uploaded, I'll email it to Area 67 for them to get and do what they're going to do with it. So once they get it, they're going to get the same file. They're going to download this to their computer. They're going to double click it and it's going to unzip, and you're going to see a folder called stems. And if I open up that folder, it'll have all the same stems that are outside the folder. So super easy. So I hope that answers all your questions about exporting mixdowns and exporting stems. Until next time, peace.